In this Bubble tutorial video, we're going to be looking at a new feature called return data on custom events. This is less than 24 hours old, and we're going to be demoing in this video. And I'm really excited to share it with you because I think it will effectively mean that you can use reusable elements to host and hold functions. Now, often a lot of criticism that comes the way of no-code platforms like Bubble is that things that are easy to do with like traditional coding are much more complicated, much more bloated to do in a no-code platform. But this allows you to effectively create functions. What's a function? Well, you put data in one end of like a formula or a calculation and you get something that you've determined out the other end. And the advantage of doing that with a reusable element is that you can have, your like complex formula, the calculation you're taking place. You only need to build that once, and then you can deploy it in multiple places around your app. Now, before I dive into a demo, if you're learning Bubble, there's no better place to do it than planetnocode.com. We've got a thriving community of no-coders and Bubble app builders just like yourself, and you can access hundreds of Bubble tutorial videos just like this one over on our website. So let me dive into the demo. So first thing I'm going to do is basically create a header, because often I find that a header is a great way of building your app in a lean manner. For example, if you want to protect certain pages in your app, I advise using a header for that, because header as a reusable element, which we're going to turn this into, because that allows you to put the user is not logged in action in the header. Then anywhere you place that header is going to have that protectiveness of your pages. I'm not going to focus too much on design here. But effectively, we want to do some sort of calculation. So yeah, I'm going to add in a button and I'll add in a text field. And let's say we want to, if I put in a date picker, let's say we want to add like 7 days to a particular data that is provided. Now, this isn't particularly complex to do, but I'm using it as an example for a much larger formula or kind of calculation that takes place. In actual fact, we'll create events as well. So I'm going to call this create event. And I'm going to add in a workflow. Now, in order to tap into this, I'm going to add in a custom event and call this new event. What we're going to do then is say that when a user enters a date, we're going to create an event in 7 days' time. The adding of the 7 days is going to be our calculation. So we're going to take in a parameter, which is date. In fact, let's make it really clear. Let's say starting date. And this is the new bit that Bubble has added in the last 24 hours. Not the parameter here, that's been around before, but the layout is new. And then the returns value, we're going to return an event. Now I have this app is one that I've used for many tutorials. I already have an event type that's data type that's got a date label and a label, date field rather. So when this is clicked, we're going to trigger a custom event, because the button can run it, but I also want to be able to reach into the reusable element and run the custom event. So this will be add event. Going to get rid of that. I was playing around with it earlier. And then we input the starting date. So the starting date will be our date field. And then in our custom event, we will create a new thing, date, and we can say starting date plus 7 days. Now, what would have been really hard at this point, once we've separated this into a reusable element, which I'm going to do in a moment, is basically retrieving this event that we've created. We probably, in the past, I would have saved it to a field on current user. It was inelegant because you had to basically have these temporary fields to store data that had been produced during the running of a custom event. So let's break this into a reusable element right now. So I'm going to go for convert to reusable element, and I'll say menu date function. And I'm just going to check what's been carried across. Okay, so the custom event hasn't been carried across. Let's create that again. We'll say create new event. Into this goes date. And maybe I'm doing this a little bit of a long-winded way, but I'm wanting to just show kind of the changes as you work through it. And then hopefully by the end of this video, the big reveal of just how helpful it is that we can now have return values. So I'm going to say event created. And this is of type event. And this is particularly the bit that wasn't available 24 hours ago. So let's create a new thing. So then the date is going to be date. We'll say plus 7 days. And then we add in return data. Once more, a new thing. If you're not sure where that was, they put it under navigation. And so now I can say the result of step 1. I'm going to get rid of the button. So I now have a custom event in my reusable element. Let's go back to my demo page. And we'll just delete all that previous bit of working. Bring that out. So, and delete this and put in the reusable element. It doesn't matter, the layout. Right. So this is a reusable element. Now before, we could tap into custom events in the reusable element. Let me show you. So this button and this field are on my page, separate to the reusable element. And so I'm going to say trigger a custom event from a reusable element. And because I've only got one instance on the page, it's automatically populated these fields. It's taken my reusable element. It's taken the only custom event on that reusable element. And I now have the date field. So I can put in my date picker. Okay. And then I want to be able to do something with the date that is returned. So let's add in a group because we'll display data in it. And again, this is a slightly odd example. I'm demonstrating the principle, not a particularly good application of it. So this will be my event. And then I'm going to put in my event date. So the date today is the 1st of February. And for this to work, we would expect to see the 8th of February appear in this box. But it's not quite ready yet because I've got to do something with the return data. So I can say now display data in a group. Here's the group ready to take my event. And then just like in many other places throughout the Bubble ecosystem, you can say the result of step 1. And it automatically populates it with the parameters that I've set up, which is the one that I labeled event created. And that is an event. Let's just have a little refresher on that. Why do I see that? Well, it's because I've said that there is a field in return data called event created of type event. And step 2, I'm sending that data through. So I believe on the forum page where they preview and demo this new feature, they give an example such as you could have conditional statements on here. So that if only certain conditions are met, you send back different sets of data. But let's go back to our page and actually test this out. So nothing is displayed. I haven't created any events. I'm going to pick today's date, create event, and there we go. Let's watch it in the debugger. So we trigger the custom event. We then go as if we're going into the reusable element. So we have our create event, custom event, runs it. I clicked on slow by accident there rather than next. Anyway, there you go. You can see it runs through it automatically and very helpfully for us. So I think that this is seriously going to change the approach that I have going straightforward for bubble app development, because it means that if you've got any complex calculations and you want to run them on multiple pages, you can basically make that function, that formula, a custom event in a reusable element. And now you can place data in and you can retrieve data out of it, all within the workflows on the page. Previously, you would have probably had to work with back-end elements, back-end workflows in order to achieve this, but now you can just do it with reusable elements.